All right, guys. Welcome back to another episode. We are going to talk about first-time home buyers and the troubles and all the shit you got to go through with first-time home buyers. This one is for you agents out there that you're just getting started in the business and you look and you're like, I love it and I want to work with first-time home buyers. Misty has some words for you.
So that's one of the questions we always ask new agents, who is your ideal client? Who would you like to chase after and market to? And a lot of them always respond with, I want to work with first-time home buyers. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of these agents are young and
They
so,
want to help.
yeah. And I mean,
It's noble, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's noble.
but that's kind of where they would be themselves as well. They haven't owned a home before. And so they're thinking, oh, yeah, I can relate.
Yeah.
And so
It's a noble cause. You want to help them. They're
it's
they're
the
new. The
excitement.
excitement. It's kind of like when you first start investing and you want to tell everybody you want to. I'm gonna invest. I'm investing. I bought a rental property and you just want to tell the world and and then everybody looks at you like whatever, man. It's kind of the same scenario. You're like, I just found out about something, so let me help you. But first time home buyers are a struggle.
Yes.
But why?
So they're going to be a lot of work. And a lot of it is due to indecisiveness and just not understanding the whole concept. And so we get a lot of people that start working with first time home buyers. And I mean, you end up writing so many contracts.
Well, I will say this: the first time I ever bought, I was scared as hell.
Oh, yeah.
I was super scared. In fact, first time my name was ever going to be on anything or I had to put money in, I just walked the fuck out.
Yeah, your name wasn't even on
Yeah,
it.
she wasn't even on it. She
You were
asked.
just supposed to pony up half.
I was so
And
nervous.
he ran away from the title company.
Yeah, I didn't know what the title company was. I was the first time home buyer nightmare. I'm sure our agent was like, "What is he doing?" Oh God. So yeah, I was that guy. So anybody listening to this, if you're a first time home buyer, I'm not making fun of you directly or dislike you, but but it is something that I think a lot of people deal with. I did. I don't
Yes.
know. Were you nervous as the first
No,
time?
I mean, I was nervous, but I was always an adult.
I wasn't. I was grown.
Growing up, I started saving for, my house and the things my furniture and all that when I was like 14. And so I always knew that's the direction I wanted to go. I wanted to own a house when I was younger, not wait till I was 25, 30 to buy a house. And so it was a scary process, but I was always like, how can I make this happen? How can I make this happen? And chugging along.
She wanted to own a house. When I was 16, I wanted to own houses. No, but okay, so you weren't scared. I was. I was
So
nervous.
who had a house when we met?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Who had the ideas though? Remember that, guys. There's
We're a team. We're a team.
there's a visionary and there's an integrator, and I have the ideas. It's not Misty. She's able to get the shit done. I can too. But we have our roles. So you weren't scared. I know I was, but first time home buyers, they get, if you're an agent and you're working with first time home buyers, they're a struggle because pretty much, I mean,
It's a lot of hand holding and counseling.
Yeah.
And because, it depends on how strong the relationship is of the buyers. If there's one buyer or two, make sure they're on the same page. And then they need to have the understanding of what they can afford versus what they want.
Yeah.
And know that sometimes you're not always going to find the perfect home, especially within your budget, what you can do.
I think one thing that helps, and first time home buyers don't bother me as much because of the previous business experience we've had where you have to teach. You basically have to teach them the process and you have to educate them, and you spend a lot of time educating them on what the process is to actually make things easier for yourself. Because if you don't do that, if you don't educate them, then
You're going to have a lot of bumps along the way.
yeah, it's gonna be difficult. So instead, it's almost like You kind of
And you always got to prepare them for that inspection. Because that inspector is going to go out and find 2,000 things that are wrong with this home,
yeah.
which every home has 2,000 things that is wrong with the home.
Look, I will never forget because I used to be like, oh man, this is wrong and that's wrong and oh my gosh. And then I remember when it all changed. I walked into a house that we made an offer on, and the inspector, he just bluntly said it. He's like, I really don't. What I do is I just turn stuff on and see if it works. I really, I really don't do a whole lot, and my inspection only goes so far. So basically, what he was telling me was that it doesn't really matter about the inspection as much, and you're gonna be all right. The house is fine. And that's when I was like, oh, okay. So for first time home buyers, they're going to feel more, either feel more relieved with a good inspection, or they might feel a little more, oh shit, with a bad inspection.
Lost. Yeah.
Where it really may not be that big of a deal. So you've got to be prepared to.
They word those things that make it seem like, oh my God, the house is going to fall down tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, so what do you do to resolve that? And it's like a $5 part. And you're like,
$5.
Okay.
Yeah. And I remember like looking like, oh man, foundation. It's got foundation, got a crack. It's over. It's done. Blow it up. Call the bulldozer.
And then you find out it's Texas.
Yeah. It's just what it is, right? Yeah. So that, and then cold feet is another one. That's what I had. I had cold feet. I actually, I know I actually told Misty, it was like, hey, you got to find a house for $100,000 with a pool, 3-bedroom. And I was like, she'll never find
separate
this.
Tub and shower.
Separate tub and shower. She'll never find it. She fucking found it. So I was like, well, my only next step is cold feet.
Then I also had to find the other half of the money because you were like, nope.
We were young, guys. We were young. Did you hear that? Yeah. So we were very young. And it was only like what, $1,500. It was.
I think
small.
it was like 2,500. Yeah.
No, it was that. It was 50. It was less than that. So my next tactic was cold feet. That's all I could do. It's like, man, my feet are pretty cold, honey. I gotta back out. But I laugh at that. I mean, that's long ago. But
Yeah.
it's.
Aren't you glad I went through with that?
Yeah, I am.
Found a way.
Yeah, we still have that. That home's a rental now, by the way. So, but the cold feet happen, and we've experienced that. We had a particular buyer that we worked with that almost. I mean, they had a killer deal. This thing was awesome. They were going to buy a duplex. Okay, if you hear this and you're going to be like, that's crazy. They were going to buy a duplex on a VA loan, 0% down. Okay.
Off market.
Off market, right? Off market. They were only going to have to bring about, was it 5,000 to the table?
If that.
And actually,
and then we ended up talking them down.
We ended up talking to them. They almost may have brought almost nothing to the table.
Yep.
But when they got offered that to bring almost nothing to the table, they said, well, I talked to a family member and the family member said it's not a good idea. And I remember Misty and I going, what the fuck? Like,
it's one of those times where you wish you could just say, give me your VA loan and I'll take the deal.
Yeah. I actually asked Misty, I was like, how can we tackle this? She's like, well, it doesn't meet this one doesn't meet our standard requirement because they're buying it at a high, much, much higher price. And again, it wasn't a bad deal for that individual.
Mm-hmm.
For Misty and I, we would have had to go in on a traditional route to do that because it doesn't meet the standards of how we would purchase an investment property. So, or the way that we would purchase it. So, we didn't buy it, but we talked about that and we did offer to buy to the owner on a seller finance. He's like, no, I just want to sell it outright. But it was a beautiful duplex. It was
well taken care of.
It was a very nice area. I would live in that area.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time home buyer just got cold feet, listened to a relative that said, oh, well, it's not a good idea. And I'm like, I don't know what's a better idea when you have, you basically, and they only would have been paying in, I think their current rent was like $1,200 a month, where they were the duplex they lived in, paying someone else $1,200 a month. They were gonna pay $1,500 a month at that, or maybe,
And that landlord's been trying to raise their rent for a long time,
yeah.
so
I'm like, and now that it wasn't a smart idea is now going to end up, we already know taxes and insurance go up. So that 1200 won't stay there. That's going to go to 15, 16, 17, 18. And then they're going to look back and be like, man, that was a dumb
could have had
idea.
someone paying me.
I could have had someone paying me and I would still pay my half of the rent. And I never had to raise my rent,
Mhm.
right? Unless, you didn't have to raise your own rent. So you're not going to raise your rent on yourself. So, the cold feet can be a big problem when you're dealing with
Yeah.
first time home buyers. And I mean, it's just part of it. So, if you're an agent and you're dealing with first time home buyers, it's important to navigate and educate. Is to educate so you can navigate
Stay
better.
ahead of it.
Stay ahead of it.
Stay
Yeah.
ahead of it. Just go ahead and explain the process. When I work with first time home buyers, I always throw out a lot of information when I'm showing the house and everything, walking through and saying, "Oh yeah, look at this," or and pointing out things. Because as long as they feel more informed and that they're not just making a "here's all my money, I don't know"
Well,
situation.
that's because what it is
Yeah,
that they have the feeling of like, this is all my money. Is it going to suck me dry?
I'm gambling.
I'm gambling. And we all, we know when we're gambling or not. We're in the business, right? So, yeah, they feel like they're gambling. So they
Mhm.
otherwise will stop. Or they'll get, that's why they get cold feet, or that's why they don't move forward. We always tell first time home buyers this moves fast. So when we pull the trigger,
Mhm.
it's going to move quick. We say all the time, this moves quick. You got to be ready to move fast because it's not going to slow down. The moment we actually pull the trigger and we send an offer in, it's going to start moving quick. And
Yeah.
if it gets accepted, then it really speeds up.
And
So you've
then
got to be prepared.
yeah.
So I think a lot of that comes down to also don't over educate. That can screw you too.
Yeah.
If you try to give too much of, like, I know that I've done this in the past where I want to give too much information to people, whether it be jujitsu or real estate or whatnot. And the next thing you know, their eyes glaze over and you're like, oh shit,
I
I
lost
lost
them.
them. I made a mistake. Because that wasn't for them. That was for me. I was
Yeah.
teaching for me at that
You
point.
you got your geek on.
Yeah. Nobody cares about how geeky you get. They just want to know, do they understand it? Yeah, exactly. So don't overeducate, do educate. And you can do education in tons of forms. You could give somebody, but see, this also ties to other parts of business, right? That concept of educating your customer,
Mhm.
educating the customer, saying this is what you need to know. You don't overeducate the customer, but you educate them enough so they understand, because people only
So that they're
learn,
more comfortable.
yeah, then they only learn so much.
Yeah,
They
you can only take in so much at a time.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so don't overeducate. And that'll help reduce cold feet and be able to help make them move forward and actually, finish the transaction. So, and then sometimes some people just aren't ready.
Yeah.
They're just not ready. And it's just what it
Nothing
is.
nothing you do or say can change that.
Yeah. And if that's the case, it's not worth, pursuing, or something we've done too as well. And again, it's up to you. I think it depends on relationship. If you know this person, you really know them, show them a couple houses just so you can teach them a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, let's go take a look at this one. We don't have to make an offer, not to buy it, but just go take a look and let's teach you a little bit about how this process works. Because if we only show you homes you're going to buy and then we have to teach you in the process, it's really going to be hard. But if I say, hey, let's go take a look at this, this might take some time. We don't have to go make any offers, but at least show you what we look at, what we're looking for. Because you remember, you're not just talking about just the home. They don't know what the title company is. They don't know what the contract looks like. They don't know what their protections are. They don't know. There's so much they don't know that even people who go get their license as an agent, there's tons of new agents. You hear it in the classes. What's this? What's that? They don't know. They've never bought a home and they're learning those things, and not making fun. I'm saying it's just so much to learn that even new agents struggle and have to learn these things. So, the more educated you are on the process, the more you can educate them, the better.
Yeah.
And that could be a website, a web page. That could be some videos that could be, there's so many ways to educate people that if you just focus on that, it helps. That was actually when I worked in the prepayment card business, we had to educate. That's where that came from in like 1920, of being taught like, hey, you have to educate these customers because it was the unbanked customers. They didn't use banks. And so you have to educate them like, no, 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 the government's not going to take your money when you put it on this card. You know,
Sucker.
yeah. You had to educate them on the card because they were, the spiel was stop putting your money under the mattress,
Yeah.
and that was the demographic we were after. So they had to educate the employers and they had to educate the actual end user. And so there was all that education. So I use a lot of that stuff now, and you can use that now. I use that in our business now, educating the customer, the client, and then the same thing, educating that first time home buyer. It's the same process. You want to have something there. It could be a pamphlet. It could be, but make it something that they're going to actually do and not just, thanks, man, and chunk it. But video, a website with some basic information on it, talks about the process, send them stuff. Just the more education, the better. That's how
Mhm.
I do it.
I like to look at the history too of the properties and see what they sold for all
Mm.
those times before. Interesting.
Yeah.
Some people don't understand values of homes and how they go over years.
Yeah. So you can educate them on, hey, if you buy this and you hold it, it's going to be somewhere around this or somewhere around that. So, and then another thing too, don't educate them to a point that it's about you. So, I mentioned don't over educate, but also if they're not trying to go that route,
Mhm.
like if they're a first time home buyer, like to me, everything's, to a hammer, to a nail, to a hammer, everything's a nail. And so, if I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh, that could be a rental. I don't want to tell a first time home buyer, yeah, you know what? You buy this and then you go rent it. And then now we can rent it and we can help you make more money. And then they're going to be like, huh? And then they're just going to stop and
Yeah.
then game over. So you have to kind of let them buy the house first. And later you can talk about the other part.
Yeah.
If they brought it up and said, I'd like to buy a home so that one day I can move out to rent, then you can have those small conversations, but don't go deep into that.
Mhm.
You will talk yourself out of the sale entirely. Remember we did that one time. I did that one time on a client. I've done that a few times over the years, but just out of geeking out, but, I've had to calm myself down and,
Yeah.
and remember, hey, talk less, educate more, don't overeducate, and then don't talk about anything that is not related to that particular transaction. Jordan Belfort calls that don't go to Pluto. You can't
Yeah.
go to Pluto and talk about other shit. It's about that right there. I remember when I first heard that, I was like, yep, that makes sense. Don't go to Pluto. And that concept will help keep you in line so that you can just help move them forward to what they're wanting to get. So first time home buyers, guys, they're gonna get cold feet. Educate as much as you can. Don't overeducate. And don't go to Pluto, and you're gonna be all right. And we'll catch you guys next time.